Hello and welcome to the 86th episode of OverclockedZA, South Africa's most accessible consumer technology podcast. I am your host, Lindsey Schutters. I'm not actually the host, I'm a co-host. And my other co-host is Gavin Dudley, editor of the largest consumer technology publication in South Africa, Tech Magazine. Gavin Dudley, how are you doing? And how is your time been on the Huawei P40 Lite that you told everyone about last week?
Don't mention Well, in the first place, you're making us work on the public holiday, which just demonstrates a level of commitment to the listeners, to the viewers, right? Excellent. But also it's because there's so much news breaking at the moment. The P40 Lite, I'm trying to take an even approach to what is a grand experiment. Should I just jump right in on that?
Just jump right in, just like to summarize what's your couple of weeks been.
So last week, I reported an overall positive experience because what had happened is I'd followed people's advice. Now, just to context, the Huawei P40 is the first phone that doesn't have the Google services on it that we've explained to you week after week, right? So we do expect a lot of hurdles, things to overcome. If you don't have the Google Play Store, you can't just go and fetch Facebook and fetch Instagram and fetch Uber. Those things are not available to you. You have to go and fish around to get all those things. So I anticipated a bit of a struggle. I think Huawei is very brave in even attempting this, but you would think that they would at least try to get those core apps into their app store. And unfortunately, they've got about, I would say, 30 or 35% of the way there. So you'll find, for example, apps for all the banks, apps for all the retailers like, Loot and Takealot and everyone else, that kind of thing. And then they've got all the Microsoft apps, but the big things, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Uber, these things not appearing in the App Store. And this then creates a problem that I'm facing. So I anticipated this was going to be a challenge, but I was determined to resolve it and explain it to as many listeners like yourselves as possible so that you would know what you were getting into with the P40. Last week, I reported that I'd followed advice and used the phone clone tool, which I believe is what Huawei itself recommends. Use the phone clone tool and you connect your old phone to your new P40, and the phone clone tool allows you to bring over all the core apps that you need. It even allows you to bring over some Google apps. The Google apps won't run on your phone, but it brings them over, which just shows how the thing works. And in that process, I brought over WhatsApp, I brought over Facebook, I brought over Instagram, I brought over Audible, I brought over all my other core apps, and they all worked flawlessly. Then I ran into problems with WhatsApp. WhatsApp would only bring over the app itself and a few of the groups that I was in. It wouldn't bring over the archive of messages, which is not a problem because I thought, well, I've done WhatsApp restores. Every time I get a new phone, I just restore my WhatsApp. It goes to Google Drive, fetches my WhatsApp archive, and presto. However, it refused to do that this time for various reasons. I reported last week I managed to lock myself out of my WhatsApp account not once but twice for days at a time, which is like very distressing. And unfortunately, and then it got worse. Yeah. So I then attempted a complete clean restore of the phone, and I've still been unable to get the WhatsApp working. But now it's starting to look more and more like the problem is something I've done in WhatsApp. It just won't allow me to authorize the new WhatsApp installation. But the bottom line is that without WhatsApp in South Africa, you've got a non-starter product as far as I'm concerned. You feel that Huawei needs to put huge amount of effort into this one particular problem, the WhatsApp transition. Everything else can be worked around. You don't need to have Microsoft Office. There are lots of other Office suites you can sort of make do. But WhatsApp is so fundamental to the South African experience. You'd think they would put a lot more resource into making that work. So at this point, I have no WhatsApp, so I'm having to run two phones at a time. And it's very non-optimal. So I think until they solve that, it's really hard to recommend a P40 to anyone at this point.
As far as I know, my P40 will be arriving soon. They are working hard on getting me one. I was told that every time I say something bad, I slip further down the list. So, nothing personal. Just business, them protecting the interests.
They actually say that. They're not really supposed to say that.
No. No one said that. I'm just assuming that. It's a naughty assumption that I'm making, that I'm passing as fact. Read into that what you may. Well, then...
Lindsey, renowned for making fabulous video reviews of phones that normally make the product look fabulous. You know, if your product's not fabulous, he simply won't make a video of it. If he made a video of your product, it's because your product's pretty good, you know, so there you go.
And I didn't smash it, which I did the S20 this morning, and it's actually going back tomorrow, and now I need to explain yet another Samsung device that I've smashed by accident. Fell out of my pocket onto the concrete floor. I was busy fixing a bike. Yeah.
Okay, it just slipped out of your pocket.
Slipped out of my pocket onto the concrete. Okay. Yes, it happens. These big phones getting bigger.
I don't know if you can see this here. This is the Huawei P40. Same thing. I don't know if you can see it. Camera's not all that good.
Yes, I can see that. That's a neat little smash. Anyway, like I was saying, I've spoken to a lot of South African tech reviewers who have the P40 on review, and it's pretty much the same story as everybody. The phone's fine, and then they actually need to get work done, so then they run two phones to review period. Most of the other people haven't had the same WhatsApp problems that you have. But I feel that's because of your persistence of wanting to import all of those backups.
Yes, bring over the archives. Yeah, sure.
But let's move on, Gavin, because last week there was some big news. DSTV announcing that there is a forthcoming bundle, that they've teamed up with two major streaming services and will be soon presenting a bundle to subscribers where they can. We assume it's Netflix and Amazon. Let's just run through this deal as quick as we can.
Right. Okay, so DSTV, let's understand at the outset, DSTV has been losing premium subscribers for quite a while. Okay, the premium package, I believe, is close to 1,000 Rand now. That's for everything. That includes the Showmax, streaming service bundled in and so on. But they've been losing those premium subscribers for quite some time. I think they've lost over 100,000 of those just over the last little while. They've seen an overall growth in subscribers, but that's all at the low end, not the premium stuff. So I don't know what that means. In total, I think we're looking at close to 20 million subscribers in Africa. Of those, about 8.5 million are South Africans.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, the fact that they're losing these premium subscribers. I think that becoming a super aggregator or one-stop shop for all sorts of over-the-top video on demand kind of content is them basically trying to remain relevant in a South African market where they could quite easily, if Netflix or Amazon or anyone else does one small strategic thing right, like drop the price or market or do better marketing or something, they could suddenly effectively see their ass. They could actually get undermined very quickly because they're not locking in those high-end subscribers. They're only really being attractive to the low-end subscribers. So they could come unstuck quite easily. And let's remember, they've got huge amounts of money invested in all this, from the sports broadcasting to all the deals they make with all the US networks, to the homegrown content they're now creating, the cake nets of the world and all that sort of thing. There's huge amounts of money tied up in DSTV's broadcasting operation that could totally collapse if they lose any more of those premium subscribers. So I think this is their play to remain more relevant. As more competitors enter the South African market, they're signing them up onto the DSTV service so that DSTV becomes your brand contact. Your billing and everything else is happening through DSTV, even if you're using a multitude of other services. What do you think, Lindsey?
So my thoughts have evolved on this. Like I still maintain that the Netflix versus DSTV comparison that a lot of publications, or at least a lot of journalists, like to make in this country, or at least in South Africa, is not an apples to apples comparison, because like Netflix is an entirely different animal than pay-per-view, or at least the DSTV model. So what Netflix and Amazon gain by going to bed with DSTV is they get access to all of the rights agreements that MultiChoice has built up over time in Southern Africa.
Through Africa.
Through Africa, like for all those 19. So that's like a big feather in their cap. Then the SuperSport business is in for a bit of a shocker, because Super Rugby Aratoa, the New Zealand one, that went live this week. Obviously, New Zealand has no active coronavirus cases and no coronavirus cases right now. So they've just opened up the entire country except their borders. And like, I mean, they had mad ticket sales. There were like 50,000 people at Eden Park. Yeah, it was like crazy. They
pent-up demand. Yeah, okay.
They sold out in all of their stadiums. People are obviously hungry for that. And this is at the time where there's a renewal of the rights agreements for for SANZAAR, for Super Rugby. And Australia and New Zealand actually want to kick South Africa out because it doesn't make sense for them, the traveling and that sort of playing. So they want to do a thing on their own. They obviously need the South African public and the SuperSport money because that's what South Africans really brought. We have stadiums like all of our stadiums can seat like 40,000 people. But with them kicking off that little competition and having the response that they have had, then the SuperSport money doesn't look so nice anymore. And they're like, hey, maybe we don't actually need these South African biltong biters, as they like to call us.
Oh dear.
So if SuperSport wants to pedal their wares and maybe go north to like Pro 14, send all of our people there, like they need to find other revenue streams and then to bundle that in with like a Netflix and an Amazon bundle. I'm coming around to Amazon, just by the way. I saw a couple of movies and shows on there that I'm really into. So yeah, it makes a good sense. And then the DSTV decoder becomes the premium set-top box in the country. I mean, it is one of the best.
So effectively, the set-top box will do the satellite reception, traditional DSTV, which, as we know, is susceptible to weather and that kind of thing. But it will then have also conventional internet streaming the way you currently do with Netflix and Amazon and so on, and Showmax and other services. So you'll end up with the satellite feed and the internet feed together in one box. And even as new competitors arrive in South Africa, let's say Disney or HBO Now, which is the new HBO service, arrives in South Africa, obviously it'll be incumbent on DSTV to go and sign them up. Who of those services wants to stand all alone on its own and secure rights and pay off whoever needs to be paid off and get licensing when you could just bundle yourself in with DSTV and get instant access to their market, which is the premium market anyway. So so that, as you say, makes a lot of sense.
Like MultiChoice has gotten into or at least they spun out Showmax now, but they got into the technology game. Like they build their own decoders. It's not really the white box products. Everything they do a lot of modifications on those reference designs, and they're really intelligent and powerful machines. And if those are in 19 million households across Africa, you'd be silly to try and move people to a different set-top box or different, like completely technology service.
Imagine you with Disney and you arrive here in Africa. Now you've got to do marketing in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Namibia. You've got to do marketing in all those countries. Or you could just get on board with DSTV, who's already done all the hard yards,
But talking about things you plug into your TV, there was a PS5 that was announced, wasn't launched. We don't have pricing yet or anything. There's two variants. The one has a disk drive. The cheaper one doesn't have a disk drive. The DualSense controller really that thing is incredible. All sorts of wonderful technologies there. But Gavin, it's still just a PlayStation. People are just playing games on there. It's not going to earn you money. You can't do work on it. Like, I thought we as a society have moved beyond the console now.
Well, just to segue backwards into the DSTV thing, I had actually, the reason I'd always backed Xbox as the console is because I thought it had much better multimedia offerings. I thought if I was going to have one box in my lounge, let it be the box that also had the Netflix app, the Amazon app, had all the apps on, and I could just stream stuff and use the game console to do all those things. But it turns out neither of the two have been particularly good at that. Xbox set out to do that and didn't necessarily achieve it. And you'd think, surely this is the obvious play, how to make yourself more versatile, make sure all these other entertainment services work with you, especially since my main point is that the console is no longer the specialized gaming platform. It's really just a PC. If you lift the hood on those things, it's basically exactly like a PC. The only reason it works is because it's a standardized PC. So all the developers only need to develop their game to run on one particular kind of PC, which is called the PlayStation. But that's going to go away in the future, in my opinion. In the first place, I think, the console cycle is like a 7-year cycle. And 7 years from now, we're going to have full-blown server-side gaming, which we've discussed on the show many times. That's when all the heavy lifting is done on the server side, and you can play your game on just about any client, on a TV, on a tablet, on a PC, on a phone, And so the idea of having horsepower in your home is going to go away as a thing, I believe, over 7 years. I think we're more than halfway there already, frankly. And things will become platform agnostic as they increasingly are. Fortnite was a big example of how this works. You want to get your game to go really, really big? Let players play from all different sides, all different mediums, all different hardware. And I think what PlayStation has going in its favor is that it's got huge, positive, warm, loving feelings and fan base, that it's engendered over the years. It really has been the gaming platform over the years, in a way that PC gaming is a generic thing. PlayStation is a branded platform, and Xbox was the kind of the Johnny come lately, the scrappy underdog kind of thing. And I mean, they produced fabulous equipment, Xbox, and some fabulous games, but PlayStation really has been the forerunner in all these things. And that momentum might carry them 3, maybe 4 years. It's never going to carry them for 7 years. So the PlayStation of the future ain't going to be a piece of hardware that you stick in your lounge, that's for sure. It's going to be a sophisticated service. Xbox already knows this, I think, because, of course, Xbox already has the huge server infrastructure to deliver client-side game, server-side gaming. So I think consoles, we're not going to see big hardware unveils the way we have over the years. I think that's going to change.
Yeah. So what bugs me, there's 2 things that really bug me about this particular announcement. The first thing is no pricing.
Yeah.
So that just means that like the hardware pipeline isn't there. They're not ready to deliver to commit to delivering to all of the suppliers. They just there's nothing to it. Anyway, the other thing that bothers me is there's this they haven't showed anything outside of like. They showed a bit of the hardware stuff and like made these awesome videos and like that was cool. And then they showed it was pretty much a half an hour of just game previews, or like more than half an hour of just game previews. So it's like,
to be honest, 2/3 of those games didn't even appeal to me. Okay. Big fuss. I
would say no one cares. You have those core members that like those hardcore, like not Forza. What's the other one? I forget. Anyway, you have like yes, you have the Gran Turismo fans. You have like the NBA, the 2K.
That's it.
You have like those core fans. That new Spider-Man game looks amazing. I love the fact that they're using Miles Morales, which is weird. Because Sony has the rights to Miles that appeared in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. And then they don't use that character. They just continue from the old Spider-Man game. And you're like, what are you guys even doing right now? Like at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway,
when I think about PlayStation, I mean, I just think about the millions of users. And what do I see in my head? I see FIFA. I see Call of Duty. I see Grand Theft Auto. I see, like maybe 10 games that probably accounts for 90% of these people. So the fuss about all the other games is about the other 10% of people. People who play Call of Duty play very little else. People who play FIFA play very little else. So the idea of having more games available is not a big deal because you're actually only talking to 10, 20% of your, user base there.
Yeah.
Big PlayStation players they're playing Gran Turismo every day, or they're playing Grand Theft Auto every day, Call of Duty every day, this kind of thing. So I don't know what the big fuss is about all these other half-assed games, very few of which actually appealed to me and didn't look all that wildly impressive, frankly, to me.
But this is the problem. It's like people my age are the target audience now. Like like younger kids, like my daughter, who should be getting deep into gaming now, she's into Minecraft and like she digs a bit of Mario Kart and what I like expose her to there. But like she's into Minecraft and it's all like my friends and their children, where they've drummed into their children, like, this is how you spend time with your friends. It's like in a post-COVID world, man. Like, is that, you really want to be a couple of guys in a small room huddled around a TV or watching the same controllers? No way. That's not a place we want to go back to. And then, like, WWDC is coming up. So Apple's developer conference. We expected to see new Mac hardware. We also expected to see them drop something about the new Apple TV, which might be coming with a controller on the side, like on the client side, and then taking advantage of the Apple Arcade. And then you like look at how well Apple Arcade is actually done. It's a subscription service, and you can just play all the games that's on there for like, I think it's like 35 Rand a month or something like that. And
but
like,
do we know that Apple Arcade has actually done well? Do we know this? They have, presumably, if I know Apple, they haven't given us specific figures, right? They've just alluded to the fact.
Yes, they've alluded to, and
yeah.
Like if you are casual, like, and you want to play indie games, there's a good couple of titles, and titles are getting more and better.
Okay, so explain the Apple Arcade concept to me. Is that okay? You subscribe to the service, then you can play on any iDevice.
Yes.
Not any, because not all the games will run on Apple TV, say. Or what?
All of the games.
All the games will run on Apple TV. Yeah. Your controller will be a bit limited, or what? You use the phone as a controller, or what?
You can use the phone as a controller, or you can. There's Bluetooth controllers now. There's support for that on the iPad and on iOS.
All right.
Yeah, so you can just jawl.
Yeah, because I mean, Apple has traditionally been especially weak on gaming. I don't know why. It just refused to get into it consistently over time, and now it's obvious that gaming is a huge market. It's possible they will work their way around to getting back into it. I mean, Amazon, for example, is starting to make quite a strong gaming play. Google has always been there and thereabouts. So we've got Microsoft big in the game, Sony big in the game. We've got one or two PC manufacturers big in the game. We've got Google big in the game. Amazon now has opened its own game studios and are attempting to build blockbuster games. They also own Twitch, of course, which is the big game streaming service. But Amazon's looking to get more into gaming. Apple's kind of like lagging a little bit. But, I mean, again, they've got the kind of war chest that allows them to get into anything really quickly.
My dilemma, right? As an average consumer, like my daughter's now doing most of her schoolwork and stuff on the laptop, and I have to share like time with her on there. So if I had to buy another device now, if I get a PS5 that's going to sit in the lounge and collect dust, there's nothing else you can do with it. Like,
okay, so that's your main gripe.
You can watch Netflix on it. You can watch a bit of YouTube, but you can't like create content on it. You can't interact with it that way, which is really.
I mean, we don't know that for sure. Is it because the limitations of the controller? Do you think the interface is limited? Apparently, there's going to be a huge overhaul of the interface, but
yes.
So are you saying in that way,
which we are yet to see, which will be unveiled soon? Which is shorthand for we haven't actually figured this thing out yet.
Yeah,
we don't know what we want to do.
Sure. But I agree with you. Creating content is a big thing. The passive thing might be okay for you and I. We work hard all day creating content in a formal way, or creating work output in a formal way. So when it comes to entertainment, we want to be more passive about it because we've been. But kids don't necessarily operate that way, or young people don't operate that way. They just see entertainment and creating as all one thing. You are quite right. It's a very astute observation, that.
Yeah, but I'd much rather have like a powerful or moderately powerful gaming PC that I can turn like Steam games on, and then also use to do my work with. Like that. That's much like what I do there.
This is one of those things that Nintendo is furthest ahead on. The interaction with the user creating things. You can create your own Mario world or whatever. You can, create outfits for the people in your world. You live in a world with people. You create, gardens and animals and whatever. They're kind of semi-creative in that way. So Nintendo, again, big ups to them. They really get that stuff right consistently. Okay, so tell us some more about the Apple stuff we can expect.
There's supposed to be a big iMac overhaul. They're going to take away the bottom chin finally. It's going to look more like a big-ass iPad Pro. And that's about it. We're looking at the Mac on.
Yeah, that's the single biggest thing. Mainly because you and I forecasted. We forecast this like half a year ago. We forecast this happening.
Everybody else did, but I get a bit nervous because Microsoft brought the Surface Book X. And that was pretty much a failure.
Okay.
But with all intents and purposes, because they couldn't emulate 64-bit apps, which is bizarre. And then everyone expects that Apple will nail it because they make their own processors. They have the muscle memory to build those things and build all the services for iPad and all those things, and it's just going to port over neatly to the Mac. But I don't believe that. I really don't.
Can I ask you to slow down a bit? The feed is breaking up, and what you're saying is really important. So,
sorry.
Okay.
So we expect that because Apple builds amazing. We expect that.
Go again.
We expect that because Apple builds those amazing bionic processors in their mobile handsets, iPads, iPhones, and they have the muscle memory developing services for those things, all of that is just going to translate well to the Mac. And I don't think it's there. I don't think we're there the moment in technology isn't there yet.
I disagree. Your feed is still messed up. Can you hear me? Give me the thumbs up if you can.
Yeah.
All right. I disagree. If you look at Apple's acquisitions over the last while, you can actually see they've been strategically acquiring chip-level technology companies, including graphics chips and VR chip makers and all those kind of people. I'm pretty sure they're going to put in a really strong play. It was very prominently announced by the media and by Apple that in the iPhone 11, the Bionic, was that version 13? Yeah, I think the A13 chip in the last iPhone was powerful enough to run a mid-range laptop. It was trumpeted throughout the media. And imagine how far they've advanced since then. So I think there's a very good chance they've got i5 level processing capacity, if not better than i5. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And then some, not game level graphics capabilities, but much better than your classic Intel standard graphics processing. And that, I think, is going to give Apple a huge lead in an emerging market of low power laptops, massive battery life with adequate graphics processing for a bit of lightweight gaming. It's going to be strategically, I think, huge for Apple to get into that market, I think. Again, it's the creators market, the multimedia creators market. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I love the iPad. I love the iPad. I probably use the iPad more intensely than most users, at least of people I know. I converted it to my primary computer. And there are so many limitations that won't be fixed if they change the form factor. I think they've pretty much taxed.
Can I ask you to go back another minute there? You say the iPad is not going to be optimized if what?
I think they've taxed what they can achieve on an iPad, in that just in what they can develop for it as an OS and what they can achieve on that OS. Because now it's that moving over to having multiple instances of apps and multiple windows and playing sound from different sources at the same time. And there's a lot of complexity that goes into normal desktop computing that a lot of people take for granted. Where on a mobile device, you expect to only interact with one app at a time. They haven't even fixed the third-party video calling from the iPad. If you want a Zoom call and you want to reference your notes, you lose your video feed because Zoom must be the front app that you're interacting with, for instance.
Okay. Can I stop you there for a second? You see, you're assuming that their new PCs or whatever is going to be based on iOS. What if it's not? What if they take Mac OS and reverse engineer it down to the ARM level? Then they will have all that multitasking capability and everything else already in the OS. They just got to get the OS to run on the ARM processor. Maybe you should also just give us a snapshot of ARM processor and what that actually means, because it's possible a lot of people listening have no idea what we're talking about.
So it's the way that it handles logic. So it's ARM because it's Acorn RISC. I forgot what the M stands for. I forgot what the M stands for in ARM.
advanced risk
It's
machine.
It's Acorn Risk. Yeah, it's Acorn Risk Machine. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Acorn.
the Acorn
Yeah.
thing is like a whole thing. It's just the way it deals with processing information, doing all those calculations. So it likes to work with on one task at a time and then have tasks running in the background. So it doesn't work on two tasks at the same time. And right. I think I still feel like OS 10 is incredible for what it is. But I don't think, if I just look at how they've tried to port a lot of iPad apps, what's it, Marzipan, I think it's called, where they ported a lot of iPad apps to the new Mac OS 10. And there's just a lot of clashing that goes on there. And yeah, I don't think they're going to stick this landing. I don't think they, from judging what Microsoft has done, and Microsoft has been developing this for a long time.
Also true.
I don't think anybody's quite there yet. So we'll hear about it. Maybe there'll be a new MacBook, the 12-inch one. I like a small computer. And I'll get really excited about it, and yeah, we'll see if they can stick the landing.
Okay, but you think Apple TV, definitely a new Apple TV. So for those who don't know, Apple TV is like a set-top box. It's like a box. It's about the size of two let's say bars of soap next to each other, and that receives all your streaming TV, and it's got apps for Netflix, for Amazon, and others. And obviously primarily for streaming in your Apple TV, for those who are interested in that. But it can also stream other things. What it's bad at is plugging in a flash drive and playing that. It doesn't really do that terribly well. But it does very well with streaming services and so on. Apple TV service. It's quite expensive for that. I mean, it's like nearly $3,000 now. I'm guessing a new one's going to be over $3,000. And the remote has historically been terrible.
So I think that's the big play. They're going to change the remote. They're going to have like a way that you can use it as a game controller. I think they might actually just release a game controller with it. Or like you can already pay your PS Bluetooth controller with your Apple TV.
Right, to
which
it.
Is great.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be, we are due a big processor upgrade for the, I think it's still running on the A9. Like they've shoved that A9 into everything, actually. It's in the HomePod.
A9. Okay, they obviously produced it at scale. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're up to A13 now. Hey, the last iPhone was A13. Yeah.
It's in the iPad, the 6th generation iPad. Like it's in a bunch of devices, actually.
Sure, but that must be like 3 years old. That surely. I mean, sure. Okay. Maybe not 3 years, but old. Yeah. Yeah, but it was like, obviously very stable and very power efficient.
Yeah, it was a big upgrade from what they did before that. If you just look at the camera system, that improved from So moving on, Microsoft.
So the Apple event is on the 22nd. So far, we've mentioned possible ARM processors in the laptop, and you mentioned Apple TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Moving on.
With all of the protests happening, everybody's kind of jumped out and said we're not going to be selling off our facial recognition data anymore. Yeah,
but I mean, what has since emerged is, so IBM was a leader in this field. Microsoft's wasn't particularly good, but it was up there. Amazon's was pretty good, actually, facial recognition. There have been lots of people working on this simultaneously. And one by one, they all came out and said, we're not going to give this to the police because of all the false positives. And then it turned out that actually none of them had imminent contracts with the police anyway, so it wasn't much of a deal. Because the police are using a company called Palantir, who are really dark and dangerous, frankly, and they do facial recognition for most of the law enforcement services. But also, there were enough loopholes in the various statements made by IBM, Microsoft, and Amazon that didn't prohibit them from doing it in the future. It's just right now. So it may have been a bit of a PR washing. I don't know. But it's good that at least they're raising a flag on the issue, because they want Congress to enact better legislation around what facial recognition can and can't do. At the moment, you can convict people on that basis, which is not great, really. You know, they had too many false positives.
Yeah, it's not accurate enough at this point. And it's crazy where the data is coming from, because like Facebook just sells off data wholesale to a lot of those services. And like the people have been doing dangerous things with it, where they've been prosecuting, or at least it's just like they've been oppressing certain groups in various countries. That's not great. And as you said, for something that's as inaccurate as facial recognition is now, I'd much rather see all of that R&D go into improving the autonomous car, for instance.
Okay, all right.
There was a big deal with that as well, where Volkswagen is now dealing with the guys who started making Ford's autonomous platform. The autonomous car marches on. We probably won't see it in the next 10 years. I feel it's at least 15 years off.
Really?
Yeah, like a fully autonomous car.
Say we overestimate how much we can achieve in 5 years, and we underestimate how much we achieve in 10 years. Okay, interesting. All right.
I don't think we're there, unless we have a big like quantum computing upgrade, or like massive deployment of real-time data connections, and then
quantum
like
computing
with a
is
service
something we need to dissect quantum computing a little bit. I think it's going to be a bit of a hashtag for this year, quantum computing. Somewhere it's going to come up, and I think our listeners deserve to have some idea what quantum computing is and how it works.
It's still a myth. It is still a myth.
Well, not really. They've had some dramatic results from it, but we're not going to unpack it now. We'll unpack it in weeks to come. Okay, listen, quantum computing.
I will trust that quantum computing is a thing when we have our first quantum computing security breach, because every single keyword or encryption system we have right now is undone the second we've reached quantum supremacy.
Exactly. Okay, but now you're getting into it. You're getting into it exactly like I said we mustn't do, because the subject is too complex and too vast, and we don't have time. Okay, but if you're listening to this, you might want to look up quantum computing. You might also want to look up a company I mentioned earlier called Palantir, Palantir. Go find out what they're doing in the world. Very scary. Okay, move on.
Moving on, Gavin, we're running a bit long. We're going to not have any tech treasures this week because we pumped a whole lot of stuff up front. The only buying advice you should take from the show is don't buy the P40 series right now.
Approach with caution. Yeah. Okay.
I'll dive into the camera review next week, at least when I get it.
Sure.
The other thing I just wanted to say, my daughter's school has been following like the curriculum plan set out by government. So their schooling started now on the 8th. And they went live with their live lessons on Google Meets. And the first week, last week, was just kind of teaching kids how to mute and unmute your microphone. I come to her like after every 10-minute session and be like, hey, what did you do actual work today? She's like, no, just muting and unmuting the microphone. And I just want to say that... There's this big thing now about pushing like this online learning sort of thing, and there's the fears of sending our kids back to school and what happens when they are like, there's a whole bunch of COVID things going on with education now. Kids are looking to be home for like a while longer still. Parents are wanting that, but I'm worried about, so they have about 100 kids on a call, which is scary in its own. I'm worried about the kids that aren't on the call, because this is like a network-wide call for the schools. And my daughter has I think there's like 30 kids in her class, and maybe 5% of them are on those calls. And I really worry about the kids we are leaving behind. What are the network operators doing? There were plans of like zero rating all these things, but access to technology and technology that is capable of running those sorts of classrooms on the user side is still a big problem for large swathes of our society, and my heart breaks for the kids who aren't there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think government is aware of this, which is why it's not going balls to the wall on remote learning. We all know there's great opportunities for remote learning, but like you say, it just widens the digital divide with people, the haves and have-nots. I mean, when cell phones first came out, the digital divide was those who had access to reliable power to regularly recharge their phones. And then there were those who had no way to recharge their phones. It was as simple as that, and then as smartphones came along, the digital divide was those who had access to data and those who did not, and the digital divide just perpetuates. And now the entire future of your children has come down to who has access to regular digital device with processing power and everything else. It's unbelievable how we are unable to close that divide. I think it's because the 10, 20, 30% of the country who have access to everything drive the agenda all the time. Let's have remote learning. Okay. And then everyone submits to that. But we can't allow the 20, 30% to drive the agenda. Lindsey, Schutters, I only use phones that cost 20,000 Rand. And what are my children learning from my example? What are my children learning? What are my children learning from the fact that I have iPads and tablets and everyone must have their own one? Yeah. What are we learning?
Everybody must have unlimited music streaming. And
I need at least 4 video streaming services, or else I can't be happy. Yeah, okay. No, I mean, there's a lot to be said. I only see my children when the broadband slows down. Otherwise, they just stay in their room and they come out and moan at you. Are you downloading? Are you downloading? My game peak is going down. Otherwise, I just don't see them for days.
The point
parenting
that I
fail.
wanted to make was Google Meet as a platform. Well, I just see the problems that the teacher has, where it's like suddenly screen sharing won't work, and it's like, is it that hard to make like a universal language, or at least interaction language for video services? Like, why hasn't Zoom and Teams and Skype and the heads of these services come together and said, hey guys, let's just all use these shortcuts?
Yeah,
so
but
that
also
people don't have to learn an entire new language.
I mean, in Africa, there's so little disposable income amongst the general population. The big money and the big contracts are with the public services, like government departments and so on. So you'd think that, Google and Amazon and the likes would come out with a kick-ass online video learning product suitable for Africa, that works on minimal bandwidth, that's easy to interact with, that works on all platforms, because that would be the silver bullet killer product for Africa. You'd think that's what they'd be doing, but no, we're all stuck with Zoom and Meet and whatever. Excuse me.
I've come around on Zoom. I think Zoom, as I said last week, Zoom deserves to win because Google Meets is so. Google Meets is really good. I'm down to the 2 megs up, 2 megs down part of my data plan right now, and Zoom is like fine, like even better than Skype, as Skype has improved quite a bit. We use the recording from this to generate the podcast, and then the video that Gavin puts up on YouTube. You can check us out there as well. That has improved over time. I think it's sampling better on each side, because I do a couple of podcasts like this way. And then Zoom just seems to be like hanging in there as the outright leader. But that's enough about video things. That's enough from me today. You can check me out on YouTube. I'm That Opinion Guy. ThatOpinionGuy.co.za is the website, and I'm Sharpshooters on social media, SharpSchutters. Gavin, what's going on in your life?
This week we are working on a specialized article about budget entry-level phones. We're putting together a selection of 6 or 7 entry-level phones that are the best we could find on the market in South Africa. That interests a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Maybe you're in that market, or maybe you know someone who's in that market, or maybe you're replacing a 20,000 Rand phone that you dropped on the floor. Whatever. Entry-level phones, we think it's the way to go. We think they're great offers to be had. So look out for that on techradar.com. If you go to techradar.com, you'll have to drill around, go to the phone section, and not today or tomorrow, but possibly the next day. Look for that. And please send us email, OverclockedZA, all one word, exactly as I've said it, overclockedza@gmail.com. Send us email, tell us what you'd like us to cover. We'll give you a shout out. All right.
Sweet.
Bye, guys.